All right, we're back for another weekly Parsha reading. And this week, I want to start off by wishing you not only a Shavua Tov, but also a Hanukkah Sameach, because we are deep into Hanukkah. And before I start, this week, I've been thinking a lot about what I'm doing here in terms of reading the weekly Parsha in English and actually sharing it with you guys. I'll keep it brief, but I want to really encourage everyone to engage with the Torah in a way that you are sharing it somehow to the extent that you feel comfortable doing. And last week we talked about Rav Kook's discussion about how important it is for us to absorb Torah in our own unique ways and how we really are adding to Torah in the world when we can actually engage with it in our own unique ways. And even God willing, get to a point where you're coming up with different Torah insights, have your own interpretations, your own ways of appreciating and understanding the Torah. So I think about that quite a bit because, quite frankly, I don't personally feel like I'm at a level where I can really offer Hiddushim, like new, insightful interpretations of Torah or something that's like super original or creative. And I actually really struggle with this because I think a lot of it comes from my background and the way that I was raised. Something I notice and really admire about the Jewish community is that Jewish families are just talking Torah at the table. It's a regular part of life. And so Jewish children grow up really being amazing storytellers. And I'm always so impressed with the way people are able to not only talk about Torah, share Torah, remember all these things from having grown up and learned about them so many times throughout their lives, but really bringing in those chiddushim, those new novel interpretations, those shouldn't say interpretations because it's really Torah is Torah, but those novel insights about Torah. Yeah, I'm just always really amazed seeing people talk Torah at the Shabbos table and really bringing interesting insights. And when I see that, while I admire it so much, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I also feel personally that I'm just so far from that. I feel like that confidence of storytelling and feeling like I am so close to the Torah where I feel like I can bring that level. I'm just not there yet. And so I've struggled with this for a long time. And part of why I've started this series of doing this weekly Torah reading in English was partially because this is a simple thing that I can do. And it's like really speaks to the idea that even a simple Jew, even somebody who's not so learned, who doesn't have a background, who can only offer aleph bet, like whatever, your extent of knowledge is, there's something we can do to bring Torah to the world, to increase Torah to the world, even if you're not super learned. You can do something as basic as what I'm doing, which is just literally reading the Parsha in English, which doesn't take too much effort, but does offer something, hopefully, to even one person. So this week, I want you to just chew on that for a bit. And I really encourage all of you to find different ways that you can actually share Torah with somebody. And maybe that means reading even a Torah summary at the Shabbat table, or forwarding a weekly Parsha email to your mother, or whatever it is. If you feel so inclined to even share a clip of this weekly Torah reading with somebody you think that might be interested in listening along. So whatever you can do, I think we all have very simple ways that we can actually help and support increasing Torah knowledge in the world. And I guess I'll just add one more thing. Even donating to yeshivas is an amazing, and to rabbis, and just supporting people who are actually spreading Torah at a high level is always a wonderful and meritorious thing to do. So I encourage you to find maybe even a new way if you're already doing something, from that list, or anything else. Maybe you can find like one more way that you can do something extra this week to just spread a little more light of Torah. And with that, I want to go right into our Torah reading. Today we are on Parashat Vayigash. Then Yehuda approached Yosef and said, "Please, my master, your servant now wants to say something that I hope my master will listen to. I'm going to be firm, so please don't get angry at your servant, for you are as important in my eyes as Pharaoh himself." From the very first instance, my master interrogated his servants, accusingly saying, "Have you a father or a brother?" Nevertheless, we held nothing back from you. We said to my master, "We have an elderly father who has a baby born to him in old age. His brother is dead, so he is the only child of his mother, and his father loves him. You said to your servants, 'Bring him down to me so I can see for myself.' We said to my master, 'The boy cannot leave his father, for if he leaves his father, we are concerned that he will die en route, for his mother died while traveling.' You said to your servants, 'If your youngest brother doesn't come down with you, you'll never see my face again.' Then, when we went up to your servant, my father, and we told him the words of my master, our father said, 'Go back and buy us a bit of food.' We said, 'We can't go down like we did before. We'll only go down if our youngest brother is with us, because the man won't let us see him if our youngest brother isn't with us.' Your servant, my father, said to us, 'You know that my wife, Rachel, bore me two children. One of them has departed from me.' And I said, 'He must have been ripped apart again and again, and I haven't seen him since. If you'll take this one away from me too, and a fatal accident occurs to him, you'll bring my old age to the grave in grief. So if I'll come back now to your servant, my father, and the boy isn't with us, being that his soul is attached to the boy's soul, he'll simply die from grief when he'll see that the boy is gone. Then your servants will have brought the old age of your servant, our father, to the grave in grief.' Now I'm speaking out here in particular because I, your servant, assumed responsibility for the boy when we took him from my father, saying, 'If I don't bring him back to you, I will have sinned against my father forever.' So now please let your servant stay as a slave to my master instead of the boy, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how could I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I can't bear to see the misery that my father would suffer." Yosef couldn't bear the thought that all the Egyptians standing beside him would see his brother's shame when he revealed himself to them. So he called out, "Take everyone away from me." Thus, no one stood with Yosef when he revealed himself to his brothers. He wept so loudly that the Egyptians who had been sent out heard. Soon the whole of Pharaoh's household heard about it. Yosef said to his brothers, "I am Yosef. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers were unable to answer him because they were shamed before him. When he saw that they were shamed, Yosef said to his brothers, "Please come closer to me." They drew closer, and he showed them that he was circumcised. He said, "I'm your brother Yosef, whom you sold to Egypt. But now don't be upset or angry with yourselves that you sold me to this place. For now we see that God sent me ahead of you to save your lives. For it's 2 years now that there's been a famine in the land, and there won't be any plowing or harvesting for another 5 years. God sent me ahead of you to ensure your survival in the land and to sustain your families and flocks for the great salvation they will need due to their substantial size. Now we can see that it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me an advisor to Pharaoh, a master over all his household, and a ruler over the entire land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to the land of Israel to my father and say to him, 'This is what your son Yosef said. God has made me a master over all the Egyptians. Come down here to me. Do not delay. You can dwell in the land of Goshen. You, your children, your grandchildren, your flocks, your cattle, and everything that's yours, and you'll be near me. I'll sustain you there, you, your household, and everything that's yours, so you don't become poor, for there are still 5 years of famine. Look, you can see for yourself, and my brother Binyamin can see for himself, that I really am Yosef, because I'm circumcised, and my mouth is speaking to you in Hebrew. You should tell my father about all the honor which I receive in Egypt, and about everything that you've seen, and you should quickly bring my father down here.' Yosef fell on his brother Binyamin's neck and cried, and Binyamin cried on his neck. He kissed all his brothers and cried over them. After his brothers saw that he was sincere, they spoke with him. The news was heard in Pharaoh's house. People were saying, 'Joseph's brothers have come.' The news pleased Pharaoh and his servants. Pharaoh said to Joseph, 'Tell your brothers, this is what you should do. Load up your animals with grain, then go and bring them to the land of Canaan. Fetch your father and the people of your households and come to me. I will give you the land of Goshen, which is the best of the land of Egypt, and you will eat the finest produce of the land.' Pharaoh said to Joseph, 'You have been commanded by me to say to them, this is what you should do. Take wagons for yourselves from the land of Egypt, for your young children and for your wives. Transport your father and come here. Don't worry about bringing your belongings, because the best of all of Egypt is now yours.' Israel's sons did what they were instructed. Joseph gave them wagons by Pharaoh's orders, and he gave them provisions for the journey. He gave each one of them a set of clothes, and he gave Binyamin 300 silver pieces and 5 sets of clothes. He also sent to his father the same amount of donkeys that Pharaoh had sent, 10 male donkeys carrying Egypt's finest produce. In addition, Joseph also sent 10 female donkeys carrying grain, bread, and delicacies for his father to eat on the way. He escorted his brothers off, and they went. As they left, he said to them, 'Don't argue on the way about the past. It's all over now.' So they went up from Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to their father Yaakov. They told him what had happened, saying, 'Joseph is still alive.' They told him that Joseph ruled over the entire land of Egypt, but his heart denied it because he did not believe them. However, when they told him all of Joseph's words, which he had told them, including the content of the last discussion which Joseph had had with Yaakov, and he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of their father Yaakov was revived. Israel said, 'I have a lot to look forward to now because my son Joseph is still alive. Let me go and see him before I die.' Israel traveled with all his possessions, and he arrived at Beersheba. He slaughtered sacrifices to the God of his father Yitzchak. In a nighttime vision, God spoke to Israel. He said, Yaakov, Yaakov. Here I am, Yaakov said. He said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid of going down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up and bury you in the land of Israel. Yosef will outlive you, and he will put his hands on your eyes after you pass away. Yaakov got going from Beersheba. The sons of Israel transported their father Yaakov, together with their young children and their wives, in the wagons Pharaoh had sent to carry them. They took their livestock and their possessions that they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and they came to Egypt. Yaakov was together with all his descendants. His sons and his grandsons were with him. He brought his daughters, his granddaughters, and all his descendants with him to Egypt. These are the names of the children of Israel, Yaakov and his sons, who went down to Egypt. Yaakov's firstborn was Reuven. Reuven's sons were Hanoch, Palu, Hetzron, and Carmi. Shimon's sons were Yemuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yachin, Sohar, and Shaul, the son of Dinah, who was called a Canaanite woman because she was violated by Shechem, a Canaanite. Levi's sons were Gershon, Kehat, and Merari. Yehuda's sons were Ar, Onan, Shaila, Peretz, and Zerach. Er and Onan died in the land of Canaan. Peretz's sons were Hetzron and Chamul. Yisachar's sons were Tola, Puva, Yov, and Shimron. Zebulun's sons were Sered, Ailon, and Yachle'ail. The above were from the sons of Leah, and she bore to Yaakov and Padan Aram, as well as Dinah his daughter. All his sons and daughters from Leah totaled 33 souls. Gad's sons were Tzifon, Chagi, Shuni, and Etzbon, Iri, Arodi, and Areli. Asher's sons were Yimna, Yishva, Yishvi, and Bria, and their sister was Serach. Bria's sons were Hever and Malkiel. The above were from the sons of Zilpah, whom Lavan gave to his daughter Leah. She bore these 16 souls to Yaakov. The sons of Rachel, Yaakov's main wife, were Yosef and Binyamin. In the land of Egypt, Yosef fathers Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Adnat, the daughter of Potiphera, the governor of On, bore to him. The sons of Binyamin were Bela, Becher, Ashbail, Gaira, Naaman, Achi, Rosh, Mupim, Chupim, and Ard. The above were from the sons of Rachel, who were born to Yaakov, a total of 14 souls. Dan's sons were Hushim. Naphtali's sons were Yachseil, Guni, Yaitzer, and Shilaim. The above were from the sons of Bilhah, whom Lavan had given to his daughter Rachel, and she bore a total of 7 souls to Yaakov. The total number of people coming to Egypt with Yaakov, his offspring, excluding Yaakov's sons' wives, was 66 souls. Yosef's sons, who were born to him in Egypt, were 2 souls, plus Yosef himself made 69, and Yocheved was born to Levi while entering Egypt. Thus, on entering Egypt, the house of Yaakov totaled 70 souls. He sent Yehuda ahead of him to Yosef to direct him to Goshen, and they came to the land of Goshen. Yosef harnessed his chariot, and he went up to Goshen to meet Israel his father. When Yosef appeared before his father, he fell on his neck, and he wept on his neck profusely. Israel said to Yosef, "If I would die this time, I would be comforted, since I have seen your face, that you are still alive." Yosef said to his brothers and to his father's household, "I will go up and inform Pharaoh, and I'll say to him, my brothers and my father's household who are in the land of Canaan have come to me. I'll also tell him the men are shepherds, and they've always been owners of livestock, so they've brought their flocks and their cattle and all their possessions. So if Pharaoh summons you and asks you, 'What is your occupation?' say, 'Your servants have been the owner of livestock from our youth until now, both we and our ancestors.' So you should do this in order to live in the land of Goshen, because all shepherds are abhorrent to the Egyptians, since they worship the sheep." Yosef came and informed Pharaoh. He said, "My father and my brothers have come from the land of Canaan with their flocks, their cattle, and their possessions, and now they are in the land of Goshen." Yosef took 5 of the weakest men from among his brothers, and he presented them to Pharaoh, hoping that Pharaoh would not enlist them as warriors. Pharaoh said to Yosef's brothers, "What is your occupation?" They said to Pharaoh, "Your servants are shepherds, both we and our forefathers." They said to Pharaoh, "We have come to sojourn in the land, for your servants' flocks have no pasture, since the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now please let your servants settle in the land of Goshen." Pharaoh spoke to Yosef, saying, "Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is open before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best of the land. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. If you know that there are capable men among them who are good at their occupation of tending sheep, then make them livestock officers over my sheep." Yosef brought Yaakov his father and stood him before Pharaoh, and Yaakov greeted Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Yaakov, "How many years have you been alive?" Yaakov said to Pharaoh, "I've been wandering around for 130 years. Compared to my father's lifetimes when they were wandering around, the days of my life have been few and miserable. Even ignoring the miseries that I've had, my days have not been as good as theirs. Yaakov blessed Pharaoh that the Nile should irrigate the land, and he left Pharaoh's presence. Joseph settled his father and his brothers, and he gave them property in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the district of Ramses, within the area of Goshen, as Pharaoh had commanded. Joseph sustained his father, his brothers, and his father's entire household with an excess of bread, as if they were young children who need to be given extra food, as they waste so much. There was no food in the entire land, for the famine had grown exceedingly severe. The land of Egypt and the land of Canaan were exhausted because of the famine. Joseph collected all the money that was to be found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan through the purchase of grain that they were buying, and Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. When the money was depleted from the land of Egypt and from the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph, saying, "Give us food. Why should we die in front of you because the money has run out?" Joseph said, "If the money has run out, give me your livestock, and I will give you food in return for your livestock." So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them food in return for horses, flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle and donkeys. He provided them with food that entire year by exchanging bread for all of their livestock. When that year ended, they came to him in the second year of the famine and said to him, "We are not withholding anything from our master. Since the money and the herds of animal have been depleted and come into the hands of our master, there's nothing left to give to our master except our bodies and our farmland. Why should we die before your eyes, eliminating us and leaving our farmland desolate? Buy us and our farmland in exchange for food. Let us and our land become subjugated to Pharaoh. Just give us seed to sow the earth so that we will live and not die, and the farmland will not be desolate." So Joseph bought all the farmland of the Egyptians for Pharaoh, since each one of the Egyptians sold his field because the famine had become too strong for them. Thus the land became Pharaoh's. Joseph transferred the people from city to city, from one end of the boundary of Egypt to its other end, to remind them that they no longer owned the land. The only land he did not buy was that of the priests, for the priests were given a daily allotment of bread from Pharaoh. Since they were able to eat their allotment which Pharaoh had given them, they did not sell their land. Joseph said to the people, "Since I have now bought you and your land for Pharaoh, look, here is grain seed for you. Sow the farmland. When the harvest is gathered in, you must give 1/5 to Pharaoh, and the remaining 4 parts of grain seed will be yours, for your fields, for your food, for the members of your households, and for your young children to eat." "You have saved our lives," they replied. "Just let us find favor in our master's eyes, and we will be subservient to Pharaoh, paying him the tax every year." So Joseph instituted a law that is in force until today, that 1/5 of whatever grows on Egyptian farmland belonged to Pharaoh. The only exception was that the priest's land did not belong to Pharaoh. The Jewish people settled in Egypt in the district of Goshen, and they acquired property there. They were fertile, and their population increased very rapidly. So that's it. The story is getting juicy, and I'm already getting excited for Pesach, just reading that and knowing what's to come. I want to thank you again for reading along, listening along to the weekly Parsha. And again, I want to encourage you to find your own personal way to share Torah this week, especially given that it's Hanukkah. It's a very special week for miracles, and we can always use more Torah to help and support the miracles that we need here in Israel. With that said, I want to wish you all a Chag Hanukkah Sameach. I hope you enjoy the rest of the nights, and I want to wish you a beautiful, festive, and bright week ahead.